Connecting WordPress and Microsoft 365 Azure AD is super easy. Hi, I'm Marco, and in today's video I would like to show you how easy it is to turn a normal WordPress website into an intranet website. A website that is only accessible for your company's employees. For today's video I will be using a website that I have already configured and enabled for Microsoft-based single sign-on. It is test1.WPO365.com. So I should be able to go to the login page, and on the login page I will find a button to sign myself in with Microsoft, to sign me in with my Microsoft, with my corporate work account basically. So I click sign in with Microsoft. It takes me, as you can see, quickly to Microsoft and I am logged in, well, as me. In this video I will not show you how you can configure Microsoft-based single sign-on using the WPO365 plugin. Instead, I'm using the configuration from the video that I recorded before, and it's titled Microsoft-based single sign-on for an existing user. Let's quickly look at this configuration at the moment. So, maybe you recall that to configure Microsoft-based single sign-on, we have to go to the single sign-on configuration page, and here we can actually review the Azure Active Directory configuration. It's as simple as basically clicking the link View in Azure Portal to open a link to navigate to Azure Portal to review the registered application in Azure AD. You may remember from the previous video that I called it WordPress video, and that we copied over the application ID and the directory tenant ID. On the authentication page we have configured a web platform with a redirect URI that corresponds to our website's main homepage, I would say. We have configured the ID token. We configured the ID token so that it contains the values for email, family name, given name, UPN. We have configured some basic API permissions so that we get an email address, at least some basic profile data, that we can request an open ID and an ID token, so to call, and that we can basically sign in as a user. And last but not least, we created a password, a client secret, and copied this over to the WPO365 configuration for single sign-on. If you need to review your current setup for Microsoft-based single sign-on, I really recommend that you scroll up a little bit. There is a support toolbar, and the third icon is about documentation, and if you click it, it will take you to docs.wpo365.com, and here you will find all the information that you need to get you started. In our case, for this video and for the previous video, I've used the single sign-on using the authorization code flow. But before I continue, I have a really important question to you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the video. Thank you very much. So let's get down to business, finally. I promised that in this video I will show you how you can turn your normal standard WordPress website into a company intranet. And this means that all pages and posts of your WordPress website are no longer accessible by anonymous users in the internet, but instead all users would need to authenticate. And in our case, they would need to sign in with Microsoft. So to achieve that, it's actually really very simple. We simply go to the plugins single sign-on configuration page. And we scroll down to the section Inclusions, Exclusions. And here we select an authentication scenario that enables the intranet authentication scenario. It's really as simple as this. You also notice that there is a link, and it really is recommended that you glance at least over the available documentation for authentication scenario. There are a few things that you need to be aware of if you select the intranet authentication scenario. It's marked as important, so really take some time and read it. Having said that, we've enabled it. We've selected the Intranet authentication mode, and let's simply take it to the test. I will save the configuration. I again see here the notification that I should really refresh server-side cache, if any. And in this case, it's really important that you do, because you change the accessibility of page and post. And it may well be that server-side cache does not agree with this, or has an old version of a page cached, and it will then simply play back this old version of the page. And that would be a page that is available to anonymous users in the internet. So if you have server-side cache, at this point in time, I really recommend that you disable it for the moment, at least whilst you are testing this and setting this up. So I confirm. I don't need to do really now a plugin self-test, even though it's recommended to always do it. But what I really want to see is whether a user, an employee of my company, can now access my website, or whether he is indeed required to log in. So I have started a new browser session as John Demo, and I will navigate to the website test1.wpo365.com. And if everything has been configured right and I purge server-side cache, which I'm actually not using for this website at the moment, I expect that I will be immediately redirected to Microsoft. And that's happening. So it's not possible for me anymore to visit a post or page of this website. Instead, I always need to sign in with Microsoft first. I created an intranet. Hooray! As you can see, I am now logged in as John Demo. And maybe you remember from the other video that I recorded that this is an existing user in WordPress. Let's switch to the administrative view. So I'm back as me, and if I click on users, you may remember that we created a user called John Demo, who has an email address which matches with a Microsoft 365 with an Azure AD user, demo@WPO365.com. But this is an intranet, and it's possible that we have thousands of employees, and I don't want to manually create thousands of employees or thousands of WordPress users. Luckily, the WPO365 plugin can help. If I go to the configuration pages and I click on user registration, you'll notice that there is an option to automatically create new users. So that basically means the plugin will create new WordPress users based on the information that Azure AD has sent us when the user signs in. Let's take that to the test. So I spin up another browser. This time not as John Demo, but it's Ellen@WPO365.com. And as soon as Ellen will navigate to test1.WPO365.com, also C is redirected to Microsoft. And she's already authenticated before at portal.office.com or similar. Or maybe she was using SharePoint. So she's already signed in with Microsoft, and she was immediately redirected back to the website. And also she has now been able to log on to the website. So let's have a quick look what that means for our website, what that means for the users of our WordPress website. So again, as an administrator, I return to the users page, and here I can see that the new user, Ellen@WPO365.com, has been created. So the plugin created the user for us, and I'm really happy with this actually. And if I click to edit the profile and I review what fields have been populated, then maybe I'm not so happy anymore. There's no first name, no last name, there's also no email address, but we actually configured the ID token to contain those. Okay, not great to be honest. So what do? Well, basically I head over to the website WPO365.com and I have a look at the available extensions. And I see here that there is an extension called Profile Plus, and it will populate a user's profile with a first, last, and display name and email address. So that's basically what I need. So let's purchase this extension and install it to the website. I purchased the plugin, and I downloaded the additional plugin that I'm now uploading and installing. As soon as I activate the plugin and I look at the installed plugins, I see that I now have 2 WPO365 plugins. It's the login plugin, the core plugin that enables me enables my users to sign in with Microsoft, and there is the Profile Plus extension. Without further doing and without configuring anything else, I will simply try and log in again as Ellen. So I'll take that browser again. I will first sign out, and now I will sign in again with Microsoft. And now I can see that first of all my name has changed here, and if I go to edit my profile, I can see that there is a first name, there is a last name, and there is also an email address. So just by installing this extension, Profile Plus, the plugin is now also able to retrieve, I would say, basic user profile information and update the WordPress profile in accordance with that. But wait, there is more. This is first name, last name, and email address. But I also, in my intranet, want to retrieve more user attributes. Actually, the employee ID, very important field, and I want the user to be able to see this in WordPress, or I need this ID maybe also for other plugins, other integrations. How do I do that? Well, first of all, let's switch back to the administrator view. First of all, let's have a quick look at the user in Portal Azure. So the user in this case is Ellen Demo, and let's see whether Ellen actually has an employee ID configured. So I go to users and I click Ellen, and I click to edit the properties of Ellen, and here I can see all the properties that are available in Azure AD, and there is indeed an employee ID 342. Okay, I just wanted to verify that, and now I will return to WordPress Admin, and I will deactivate the Profile Plus plugin, and I will actually delete it. To retrieve custom user attributes, I would need to go back to the website WPO365.com, and I would instead need to purchase the Login Plus extension. I've purchased the Login Plus extension, I downloaded the additional plugin that it gives me, and I am now about to upload it to my WordPress website. I installed it and I activate the plugin. Now I can return to my WPO365 plugin configuration. And here I can go to the UserSync page. And here there is a section Custom User Fields, and I can use it to configure custom attributes that I want to retrieve from Azure AD. So in our case, I said I want to display the custom employee ID on a user's profile, and I need to configure the property. The Azure AD property name is employeeId, and in the profile I would give it a title as employeeID, and I always need to click the plus now to add this field. And whilst I'm at it, why also not just get the job title of the user? So maybe we say this is role, and why, when we are at it, not get the user's department? And it should show as department simply. And last but not least, I want to get the user's mobile phone number. So I type mobile phone, and here I say mobile, simply as a title. That should be sufficient. So I click plus, and I click to save the configuration. Having that out of the way, let's give it a try. I simply switch back to Ellen, I log out, and I simply sign back in with Microsoft. And in this case, I would go to the profile of Ellen. I click Edit Profile. I would scroll all the way to the bottom. And here I can see that a number of fields are actually populated, but not all. Employee ID has not been retrieved and department is empty. I'm not sure whether it's filled out, but we know for sure that here the employee ID would be 342. So let's see, something probably is not right with our configuration. So I switch back to my administrator view and I continue to the integration page. On the integration page, I can see that I've selected the graph version 1.0. And instead, I switch to the graph version beta. Or maybe, let's not do that. Let's simply go to the plugin self-test and run the plugin self-test one time. And if we look at all the tests that have been executed and that are also passed, I can see that one test didn't pass, and that is like, please, it's recommended to select the beta version. Really? Select the beta version? Yeah, I think in this case it's okay. So I click to fix it, and now the plugin basically itself will configure to use the beta version, and the test should pass. So yeah, I'm happy with this for the moment, and let's give it another try. So I switch back to my browser where I'm logged in as Ellen. I log out and I sign again in with Microsoft. And again, I would choose to edit the profile of Ellen and scroll all the way down. And now I can see that I got indeed more fields. The beta version of Microsoft Graph simply contains a richer user resource. So it's worth really selecting the beta version. I'm actually really happy with my WordPress-based intranet. Users of my company are required to sign in if they want to visit pages or posts of the website, and when they do, their profile automatically gets updated, even with some custom properties. But I have some additional requirements. For example, when a user is signed in and when they sign out, for instance, they can always access this login page, and I don't want that because this login page may confuse them. They may start entering a username and a password, and I don't want that. What I can do, and it's part of the feature set of the Login Plus extension, I can basically, as an administrator, go to the plugins login logout configuration page, and I can choose to enable single sign-on also for this login page, simply by checking the box. It also gives me a secret key, and the secret key I can use to bypass the single sign-on for the login page. So it basically means if I save this secret key somewhere in a password management system, for instance, and I add this key with a question mark as kind of a query string parameter to the login page URL, then I will still be able to access the login page and can use WordPress credentials as an administrator to still gain access to my WordPress website. For example, if single sign-on fails, it can all happen in the end, even though it works very reliable, and also Microsoft's single sign-on works very reliable. It's always good to have this, break the glass account type of thingy. So I want to enable single sign-on, but when I enable single sign-on, I also need to create a page in my WordPress website that becomes the error page and that I have configured then as the error page. This is all documented here. If I click on the E and if I then choose to read more, then I can see the full page. Here you will see that I must create an error page. This error page is needed because if authentication fails, then the plugin cannot redirect the user anymore to the login page, because then the user would end up in an infinite loop. He cannot log in, login page, however, still sends the user to Microsoft. He cannot log in, Microsoft sends the user back to the website, and well, this can go on forever until Microsoft will cut this infinite loop. So we need to create an error page, and this error page would be available for anonymous users, and we can click on the link. And we can also see that there is a shortcode that I will copy from here immediately. copy there, and I will need to create a new page, an arrow page. I would say add a new page to my website, and I will simply call this error page, and I will add a shortcode block. I will add the shortcode that I copied from the documentation, and I will publish the page, and I will click to view the page so I can copy the URL, and I will go back to the WPO365 configuration pages. I go back to the login logout configuration page. I will click to enable a single sign-on, and I will paste the error logged out page here. This is important. And I will also, just in case, copy this key and add this to my password management system. So with the configuration in place, I will save the configuration, and I will now put this to the test. So I will go back to the to LN demo, to navigate the web basically as LN demo, and I will simply try and refresh the test1.wpo365.com login page. Also, please, again, I didn't mention it now explicitly, but purge or refresh your cache. It may be needed in this case. So now if I refresh the page, you see I'm automatically taken to Microsoft. So I can't access actually the login page anymore. So if I would say log out now, I'm actually taken to the error page instead. And here I will see the message that goes with, it's not really an error, but that goes with the login error logged out. The user logged out, and instead of being sent to the login page, he is now sent to this error page. And of course, you can beautify this page as you wish. Having that said, let's then see, so I'm logged out now. Can I then really access this page if I use the secret key? So I would place a question mark behind the URL and then paste the secret key. And now if I press enter, you can see that it's still possible. The secret key is very important for administrators, so really save it in a place where you know where it is and where you can access it and find it again. There are a few more things that I would like to show you before I let you go and create your own WordPress-based intranet. First of all, if I switch back to Alan's view of our beautiful intranet, I'm a little bit disturbed by this WP Admin Bar at the top. I don't want my users of my intranet to see this. They don't need it. As long as they just consume content, they don't really need to access WordPress admin. So if I switch back to the admin view, you can see that on the login logout configuration page, I have the ability or the possibility to hide this bar for certain roles. So let's say I want to hide it for subscribers. Why for subscribers? Well, Alan got the role of a subscriber. If I look at my users, then I can see Alan has the role of subscriber. Question is, why did he get it? Well, it's actually a good one. If I go to WPO365, the configuration pages, and if I go to the user registration page and I scroll down to the bottom, then here in the section of role and access, you can see that you have the ability to change the default role of a user when he or she is created by the plugin. Custom roles are also supported, and in my case here the default selection is subscriber. If you want users to leave a comment, they need to be a contributor, of course, but I really leave that up to you. And if you make changes here, don't forget to save. Last but not least, I also show you quickly then the update scenarios that are supported. Either new roles are added, or an existing role is replaced by this configuration, or the role configuration is skipped at all. So you can configure that on the user registration page at the bottom. Let's go quickly back to the login logout page, because I wanted to hide the WP admin bar for subscribers. So I select subscriber, it's automatically added. You don't need to click the plus this time. It's called progress. And I click to save the configuration. Once I have saved this configuration and I switch back to the view of Alan, of our beautiful intranet, and I refresh the page, you'll see that the admin bar is gone. There is maybe one more feature that is actually worth mentioning at this point. So let's take a quick look at private pages. which would be an alternative configuration of an intranet. So I quickly switch back to my administrator view, and I go to the single sign-on page. Remember at the beginning I selected, in this section of inclusions and exclusions, I selected the intranet authentication scenario. But maybe you don't want all pages to be blocked. Maybe you just want a few pages. Maybe it's a corporate website that's also available for your customers, and maybe you just want a few of these pages to be private. Then you need to switch back to the internet scenario. And when you do, you will notice that there is an option to define some private pages. Let's have a quick look how that may work. Let's first create a page that would contain private content. So I would go to pages in this case, can also be posts, but I just create a page in this case. And I would say I create a new page which will contain my the policies of the company. And here there will be some confidential content here that's not supposed to be seen by anonymous users. So I publish this page and I have a view and I look at my beautiful page and I copy the URL and I switch back to the WPO365 configuration, to the single sign-on page. And in this case I didn't save the configuration before, so I select internet and I define the policies page as a private page. And of course in this case I still need to click the plus, don't forget that. Yeah, this is what I'm happy with. So basically now my website is a normal website, but it has certain areas where users would need to sign in before they can access the content. I save the configuration, and also again in this case it's really important to refresh server-side cache. I confirm that I know this. I could start another self-test, but in this case it's not really important. We didn't really change anything about the functionality. It's more or less about pages that are hidden now. So I would switch back to Alan's view. Well, because this is a naked WordPress website, I actually don't have a logout button. So in this case, I need to explicitly navigate to WP Admin so I can log out from the website. This sends me to the arrow page because we still got this configured, of course. But if I now go to the website, I can just access it. I don't need to log on. But if I would go to the policies page, which we see here in the navigation, which has automatically been added, and I would click on it, then I'm taken to Microsoft, I'm logged in, and now I can read the confidential content. So is it really necessary that for each user that needs to access a private page in my website, a new WordPress user is created? Well, no, it's not necessarily needed. If you look at the available authentication scenarios, you see that there are also two scenarios called Auth only. So in our case, we have selected the internet authentication scenario and we made a single page private. So let's see how that looks if we would choose the internet Auth only authentication scenario. And I will save the configuration, and before I go and put this to the test, I will go to my users in WordPress and I will remove the user that was created for Alan. Because I want to test with Alan, and I want Alan to be able to access our policies page, but if she does, I don't want the plugin to create a user account in WordPress. So let's remove Alan from our user tables here, and let's spin up a browser as Alan. There we are. And I will just refresh the page once and I will navigate to the policies page. And you can see I'm actually still taken to Microsoft. I'm still logged on basically now. But if I now will switch back to the administrator view, after that I've accessed actually the confidential content. So if I switch back to the administrator view and I refresh the page with all users, you can see that there is no user for Alan. And that brings me to the end of this video. But not before I show you how you can get in touch in case you have a question. Did you see the blue dot at the right bottom corner of the WPO365 configuration pages? Well, if you click it, it brings up a beacon, and this allows you to send us a request for support. And you may expect an answer within 24 hours, normally a bit quicker, maybe in the weekend a bit slower. And do you remember what I asked you before? Don't forget to subscribe to my video channel and like the video. And of course, I'm saving the best for last. In our support menu, you will notice a button that will allow you to review the WPO365 login plugin. Please do it. Thank you for watching this video and stay tuned for more. Bye!